There is an endless sea of podcasts about entrepreneurship. Talking about it, but not living it. We live it every day. This is Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle, talking about real estate investing, but also encompassing general subjects in regards to owning small to medium-sized businesses. And of course, all the struggles that business owners must overcome to be successful. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. And this is Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle.
Hey, welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den. My name is Shawn Wolfswinkle.
And I'm Joni Wolfswinkle. Welcome back, everyone.
Yeah, so it's been a good week. Short week, so it's been, busy.
Yeah, and this whole year has been kind of busy.
Yeah.
I think we were just talking about that the other day. It's like, man, we worked really hard this year, but it's also been a rewarding year as well. So
Definitely need a vacation, but can't even take a vacation.
Well, we actually did.
Yeah.
We just celebrated our 17-year wedding anniversary last week, and so that was pretty amazing. We went to New Mexico, spent a few days there with the team, and then also had some R&R time ourselves, and went off-roading on a Jeep tour. That was pretty cool.
Now I'm getting suckered into trying to buy a Jeep, so we'll see how that works out. But it's good. It was for those of you who don't know, you can go back to, I think it's episode 1 and 2, listen to our story. But we're from New Mexico, and Joni and I met in high school 24 years ago.
Yeah.
At the same time, so it was good to go back and our old stomping grounds. Yeah. And I think we were even off-roading in the areas where Joni and I used to go and make out, way back in high school. And so, it brought back good memories for sure.
Fun stuff. And we did some hiking as well. So we got to enjoy the outdoors, which we don't get to enjoy so much here in Texas since it's always hot and humid. So we got some good weather out there and some hiking.
Yeah, it's fun. So, but anyway, this week we're going to share with you, I think, something that any business can take advantage of, and especially in this climate that we're in, as everybody had to go remote, so we're going to get into talking about remote team members, or also they're referred to as virtual assistants. And, especially in these times where everybody's remote, it's gotten way more customary to people are adapting, especially, maybe the baby boomer era, and a lot of maybe executives, they're not used to using remote team members, or they were like, no, everybody has to be in the office, right. And they weren't maybe opposed to it.
And we even had that attitude as well. I mean, I think we hired our first remote team member, I think like 5 years ago. Yeah. And I remember we were, scared, like, how is that going to work? Like, are they working the same hours as us? And what happens when a client calls into the office? So we were a little scared ourselves, but of course, you and I like to jump into things and, hey, let's take a risk and see if it pays off. And it totally did. And during these times, like you said, we've been utilizing it more so now than we ever have been.
Correct. And it's a big part of our business, and we give the opportunity to employ people in other countries, and, really, they've helped us grow significantly. Yes. And helped service our clients. But so we're going to get into it, like what is a remote team member? How do you find them? How do we utilize them? Pros and cons. And so we're going to get all into the specifics of it. Mm-hmm. But, remote team members, they can be U.S.-based individuals. They don't have to be out of the country. You can find people that want to work from home, stay-at-home moms. So there's many opportunities, right. and there's plenty of places to find them. The ones that we use specifically are in other countries. Mainly ours are out of the Philippines and out of Mexico. They work our same hours. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of administration tasks behind the scenes. Right. They
answer phones.
Yeah. So they speak to clients. They speak to residents. Mm-hmm. So we utilize them in every department. We have remote team members, and they're usually supporting the lead team members.
Right.
As well.
Yes.
Yeah. But the nice part is they provide their own computer, internet. They work from home. they provide their own headsets, and so anymore today you can really utilize these people because all the phone systems now are voice over IP. So all they need is a headset. All the our softwares are all web based, so that's something they can just log into and work from home. And there's so many advantages for them because a lot of times they have families. They like the ones in the Philippines are working nights while their kids are sleeping, their families are sleeping. But they enjoy it because it's a higher pay for them in their climate, in their market, and then they're able to work from home.
Yeah,
and just take advantage.
And for us, they're excited to come work for our company and be part of our company and our culture. So it's exciting.
Yeah. So how do we find them, or how do we start with them? So there are several companies out there that outsource virtual assistants. So they're a business that has been created upon finding these team members and then setting them up in their market or their country, and then marketing them to U.S. based companies.
Right. And if you can find, a company that specializes in your industry, that's even better because they know and understand what you're looking for. So it's better, they can find the right fit for your company.
Correct. And usually there's ones that are specialized to your industry.
Right.
Yeah. And they can support it. So the ones that we've hired over the years have always come through a company like that has either specialized in the real estate industry in general, real estate investing, or property management specific. But you can also find people on, I don't know how you pronounce this.
Or Upwork.
Yeah.
Upwork is a good one as
well. So fiverr.com. Or Upwork. There's plenty of people advertising on those two sites, and you can hire directly, especially if you're only looking for one or two, people to help you out and not scale it or something.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great place. People that are just looking to work from home. It could be somebody in your own market that just wants the ability to work from home and doesn't want to report. You can hire somebody like that.
Which is, these are the times you're going to see a lot more of that. So
there's people who are scared to come back into the office, but they need to provide income for their family, and so this is a great opportunity.
Right.
Some of the pros of what's some of the pros of hiring? Remote team members?
Low cost, of course. The thing with that, though, when you're starting out a business, I know for us, when we started off, we didn't have a high budget for, staff. And so starting off our first VA, it's okay, we need somebody that can do the admin stuff, all the marketing, listing on our websites, and just the tedious work, it's important stuff, but stuff that it takes a lot of time for you and I to do. So if you're starting out in a business, it's a good way to just get some, a good quality remote team member to do a lot of the admin. And you'll find that they're a lot quicker than you are, and a lot of times they finish their tasks and are like, hey, Joni, can I have something else to do,
Yeah. So, you always hear about that, stop doing the $5 an hour, tasks.
Right.
And that's kind of, and we've taken it further. There's very talented remote team members out there. But even just to start, it was just to, rather than you and I doing those $5 an hour job tasks, it's let us focus on sales and growth and building the business, and let them focus on the little tedious tasks that has to be done by somebody.
Exactly. And then even now, as we are, much larger, our property management company, we have almost 1,500 doors, and we were noticing scaling our business. We needed our remote team members to help us because our leads were drowning in these tedious tasks that they weren't able to do the bigger picture items because they were stuck in the weeds of doing these things.
Yeah, because as you grow your company and scaling, there's always that balance between having enough staff and not enough staff. Right. And usually when you're scaling and growing, you're always maxing out everybody because you don't have enough money yet. You haven't seen the revenue yet from that growth, but yet you need the support to support that growth. So it's a hard balance, but with remote team members, you can usually get there quicker because obviously the cost of labor is a little bit cheaper, so that you can afford to hire more than what you could in the U.S.
Right.
Yeah. So, and some of what we've seen is, number one, and then also the lower another pro is that the lower labor cost, but also the lower cost of having an additional staff member. So like, you don't have to provide an extra office space. You don't have to provide an extra computer and all this equipment that you don't have. And so, or can't, maybe can't afford it at that point.
I mean, all the costs that come with, having an employee as well, insurance and, all the other stuff that come with it. It's expensive. So, if you want to save on that, this is a great way.
Yeah. And then what we found, especially the biggest thing with remote team members is you got to treat them, and we'll get into this more specifically, but you need to treat them as a regular member or team member of your company.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. I mean, that's the only way it's going to work, because I know other companies out there that, hire them and then they don't spend time with them, training them. They don't, they just they hire them and think, okay, like they're going to just do what they need to do and they're going to help grow my business. And then 6 months down the road, you're like, man, like I thought this guy was doing, what he was supposed to be doing. And I found out that he was just sitting there. Well, you didn't treat him like you would any other employee and, and part of your team.
Yeah. Train him, onboard him. Treat them like any other employee that you would have in the office. But what we found is also in the hiring process of these remote team members is you treat them, you vet them just like you would anybody else. You interview them, you have second interviews, maybe test them, come on and just test for a while. But like treat them, really look for the talented people out there. And what we found is there's really educated people, like some of the ones that we've been bringing on out of Mexico recently have been extremely talented people, bright, smart. They can speak better than me and they can write better than I can, and it's awesome because you get some, and they're excited about the opportunity. They're excited about the being part of a company and a culture that they just embrace.
They're over. I remember some of our new faces recently, because we do our morning huddles every morning at 9:38, and so our remote team members, huddle in, and all of our locations huddle in. And I think the first day they were just overwhelmed, like, wow, like I've never seen this before, like a company so tight knit and family oriented. And I think one of the new members was like, man, you guys are like the bulls of real estate, so they're awesome. They, you have to hire them though to fit your culture, and just like you would hire anybody else, you have to take it serious. And we also use the predictive index to help us kind of place, the remote team member, because I think it's important to, you need to place them where they best fit. And so I don't know if you want to talk
I've always just said like being the right person on the bus and then the right person on the right seat. And so, so you're testing for that they're going to fit your culture is huge. And then also, and this goes for the remote team members just as much. And then also testing like using the predictive index and one of those for a specific job.
Right.
And yes, that's crucial. And so if you're not using some kind of I'm probably saying this wrong, but like personality or
disc profiling.
It's just some kind of to find the right person for the right seat. And so we use the predictive index and had good success with that. What do you find some cons? Like one I know is yes, they're coming from other countries, so more than likely you'll find some that speak great English. They'll find some that have an accent, and
again, it comes back. It's down to when you interview them, and you just have to take it seriously as you would everybody else. I think our first VA, we probably went through 5 or 6 different candidates before we found one that we really liked, right? And so you're going to find that, but that's okay. You really want to find the one that's going to best fit you, and not just be quick to hire them.
And I don't think it's as big a deal anymore today to have, anymore today when you call a company on the phone, a lot of the large ones, you're calling a call center somewhere in another country. And so people are used to that anyway. There's going to be some cultural differences, I think, especially with other, they're going to have different, maybe just holidays. So are you going to have them be off on your holidays, or are you going to bend to some of their holidays in their country? That's a big one. There's some different cultural differences in the way they're paid or the way that, it's customary and that. So you got to be sensitive to those situations, but also aware of them. And then I think this is always the concern for majority of the people that I ever speak to when they hear we have, a lot of team members on our team. They're always questioning like, well, how do you manage them? Or like, how do you know they're working for you if they're not? And I think that's thinking small, because I think if you really, they're number one, you'll know if they're not completing their tasks.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a set of KPIs, which is our key performance metrics that we go over every Wednesday. So, and I encourage if you're in business for yourself and you don't have key performance metrics, it's important that you do, because when you do hire staff, the numbers don't lie. Yeah. Right.
And so, they each have their own metrics that they need to hit. And they report to their team leaders. They're in part of the meetings, and their departmental meetings. And so they can easily get exposed if they're just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
We have them responding to emails. We have them answering phones. So it's easy. You can tell. There are also softwares out there that can help you with this. So I know we're using, I think it's Hubstaff,
right,
which actually you can at any time go in there and check, and you can see their screen, so you can see if they're on sites they're not supposed to be or doing something else. But that's micromanage a little bit.
It really, and I guess you have to trust your team members, and you have to, again, it comes down to hiring initially as well, So those things should come out if they're not a right fit.
Correct. And you set the expectations up front, and what is expected of them, and what is. And as long as those are set up front, then I think it eliminates a lot of the...
And then just the continuous training, ongoing training, that should never stop.
So, we've had success with using them, and they've been an awesome part of our team. Explain to the listeners how we've benefited, or how do we use them?
So we use them in pretty much every department. But to start, with Texas Turnkey Properties, we buy properties and buy lots, and so one of our first remote team members, she's a lead manager. What she does is she filters all the leads in, and then she sends them out to our acquisitions manager, to meet with the homeowner. So, and then in our property management, we have in our leasing team we have one that does all the marketing, one that answers all the incoming leads from prospects looking for rental properties, and then we have in our renewals team, they're reaching out to residents that want to renew their leases, maintenance, coordinating maintenance, you name it. Every department, even in accounting, they're doing entering the bills, collections, and then now just recently for Mr. Reuter. Our plumbing company in Albuquerque, they're actually doing the after hours calls for, our plumbers.
Yeah. So we did a new addition that we just did this year was adding the after hours lines and staff. So now, all the after hour calls are going now, rather than it used to go to a call center that we had limited control over, which at the time, some are good, some are bad, and it just depends on who's answering on the other side. And we just felt like it was better to bring them in-house.
Yeah, we can train them on what we want them to say to our prospects. Where when you have a call center, not all the time you can control what they say.
Correct. So I'm going to throw some questions at you that I think, I get a lot of times from, people challenging using remote team members and thinking that I have to have somebody in the office or I have to have somebody locally. The big one is, can they answer the phones, or should they be talking to clients?
Absolutely. I have my remote team members talking to clients, either from residents to owners. Again, when you hire them, they're knowledgeable. They fit your culture, they fit your team. They can represent your company professionally. And other than that, it doesn't matter. I mean,
and we have some great ones, as we said, and I think they do just as fabulous a job as anybody on our team. Yeah. And so we're proud of them. The other thing is, I lost it, but whatever. I'll move on to the next one. Can you trust them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to hiring, I think, and, spending time with them. Something that I do is, at least once a week, I'll reach out to every remote team member and really get to know them on a personal level. And I don't know any other owner that would do that, but I go the extra mile because I really want to get to know my employees like they are in the office.
Correct.
I want them to come to me if they have issues and be comfortable to, come to me for anything.
And I think that's, you nailed it right there, because that's the key. That's the reason most people that do hire them and then they say, it doesn't work, or I didn't have a good experience, or I didn't get a lot of production out of them. Well, a lot of times if you really look at it, it maybe wasn't the team member or, that you hired, it's probably you. And what I'm getting at that is number one, and that's what I forgot about and I was going to mention earlier, it comes down to training.
Yeah.
You got to train them just like you would train anybody. If you don't have a good training program and onboarding, whether they're in your office or in another country, you're going to probably not do as well.
Exactly.
And with today, we use Teams, but you can use Zoom or any software, but you can, we call them, we share our screens, we go over training so we can walk them through things. And we have a whole training module built out that they have to listen to videos, answer questions. Much like, I don't know if you've ever gone through driving school or something like that, you have to follow those videos and it doesn't let you go forward until you answer the questions.
Right. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
annoying, but yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I treat it so here in our office, I have an open door policy. If any of my employees need, to talk to me for anything, they're welcome at any time. And that's how I treat it with my remote team members. I have an open door policy. And if they need to, call me over Teams or Zoom, that's what they do.
And I was going back to what you said earlier. I think the neat part is that you do make them feel like an employee or like a regular team member, even though they're not in the office day to day. You want to make them feel like they're part of it. They're part of this company. They're part of this organization.
Absolutely.
And I think you do a great job of that. I know you like to use Teams so you can see them. So you call them and you get to see them live, have an interaction. And with technology today, you can have a pretty good face-to-face interaction over the,
and it could be weird at first, when I call them and I don't see their camera on, I call them out hey, turn on your camera. I want to see your face, your pretty little face. Yeah. So, but I mean, I think it's important.
Yeah. And then we try to include them in as many events as we can. Of course, if we go out and do something local, we can include them and it's a bummer that we can't, because we would love to include them in,
absolutely,
a lot of our team building events, whether it's go-kart racing.
Yeah, but we do include them we have a lunch and learn every once a month, and so they're included in that. Today, actually, we're doing a happy hour, over Zoom. Just get a chance to get to know them more on a personal level.
Correct. And it's with COVID, I think that's everybody's doing those kind of events. So we're now able to do that more often and do that kind of stuff with them. Another question is, how do you think your owners will respond knowing that you have team members? So taking it a step further, what do you think our clients will think of us having remote team members?
Again, if they represent your company professionally, it's not an issue. In fact, one of my rock star customer service representatives, we just hired him maybe a couple months ago, and our owners love him. He's like, man, this guy is really professional. He's on top of it, and so and it's our remote team member.
Yeah, we don't publicly disclose where people are located, or where it doesn't matter to us, because it's whether they're here in the U.S. or not, or here in Houston or Albuquerque, I don't think it matters. And I don't think people know unless they get to talking to them and find out. But I think they can. We train them and we have them. We wouldn't hire them if they couldn't carry themselves well with our clients.
And we constantly are training them. We have our customer service roundups on Thursdays, and so everybody in the organization participates in that, and we go through objections and maybe some issues that they were having and how to overcome that.
Brett does he was on, he's obviously I'm making this podcast happen, but Brett did a really good podcast, and we'll put it in the show notes which podcast and episode that was, but on the customer service round,
yep.
or customer
experience
is what it's called. But we include our remote team members in there, and they really get involved, and they share their wins, and they share challenges they had with clients, but they get to interact, and it's a great weekly thing that we do every. Yes. And this past week was awesome.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we had our business development manager, kind of lead that, just break it up, and she did an awesome job. And so I think everybody got involved. I think everybody got a lot out of it this past week.
Absolutely.
I think that we kind of nailed it with how we take advantage of how we had success. So again, it comes down to training, onboarding them correctly, treating them as regular
as any other employee.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And hiring.
And then selecting the right ones and hiring and put them in the right seats.
Correct.
And then if you do that, I think you can, save and help your company grow quicker. And I think you can take advantage of hiring a lot sooner than maybe you thought you could.
Right.
So check them out. If you have any questions, be happy to help. Send us an email. Send it to info@insidethewolfsden.com. Reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you. And we look forward to talking to you next week.
Have a great week, everyone.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there. Talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolfsDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.